Hello, everyone. We're back with Ken Dombrowski, executive life coach and master hypnotist, and we're going to do another installment of our client success stories today. I don't remember which one you said you're going to do, so kick us off.
Well, thanks for telling me. We're doing a client success story. Okay. Client success story. There's one that I've actually been thinking of recently. It was a few years ago. Really, really nice woman came in. She was about 70 years old at the time. It was absolute sweetheart of a lady. She had this problem with choking and coughing. So she'd cough so much that she'd start choking, even though she'd say that there's nothing there. But she just felt compelled to cough so much that she'd choke, or choke that would cause her to start to cough. Throat was always rough and raw from all this this activity. And so she's been to multiple doctors over the years, 20 years she's had this problem. And it was very disruptive to her life and her husband's life. Some nights that she just had to get out of bed and go to another part of the house because she couldn't sleep because of her coughing, and she didn't want to disturb her husband and keep him awake. So she'd been through multiple doctors. She'd been to the sleep study doctor, she has a CPAP, and that didn't seem to help at all. Been on all kinds of medications and been to therapy for through all this stuff, and none of it was helping at all. So it finally got to where it was so bad for the last 6 months before she came to finally call us and see us. It was so bad that she was a wreck. She wasn't able to hardly sleep at all. She was just a mess. So she finally comes in and sees us. That's what happens, by the way. You notice that people will go through years and decades of what we call, the traditional route for mental health or physical health, and get no result, or even worse, feel worse after all this treatment. And then they do the crazy, nutty thing of, well, why not? Let me try this crazy shit, life coaching and hypnosis, and see what this might do for me. So this is exactly, almost word for word, what she told me. Mm-hmm. She said, well, I tried everything else. Why not give this crazy shit a try? That's almost exactly what she said. So I don't take offense to it. I think it's kind of fun. It's funny because sadly, that's the way this works. But anyway, she's in the office. We're working along, a couple of sessions in, trying to get to what we do is we're trying to get to the emotional origin of what someone's manifesting. So I don't care if you're an alcoholic. I don't care if you're smoking 2 packs a day. I don't care if you have depression, fear, anxiety, feelings of worthlessness. It all starts from an emotional origin that to have a out of balance perspective is how we kind of call it. So that's what we're in search of. And after a couple of sessions, 2 or 3 sessions in, I don't remember exactly how many, but she finally breaks down and just starts crying in front of me. And so, what's going on? What's happening? Well, she said that one of her children, her son, was the result of her being date raped. She was in college, and she had a boyfriend, but they kind of had a bit of a fight, so they weren't really talking to each other for a couple of months, taking a little break kind of thing. And so she ended up just kind of, it happens in college, right? Just happened to see another guy, went out, and he forced himself on her. She said she didn't want, it was a first date. She wasn't expecting that, wasn't wanting to do that, but she didn't know what to do. So and sadly, this happens to a lot of young women, that they feel that if they went out to dinner and a guy's forcing himself, maybe you got to do this. I don't know. But that's where she was at. She's tried saying no, he didn't listen. So anyway, they had sex, and she got pregnant as a result. And she then told her boyfriend that she was pregnant, and it was, of course, his, and he believed her. So they got married, had their baby, had a few more kids. She had the son, and then four more children, I think they had. And so anyway, she's carrying this burden with her, because she knew from the get-go that this absolutely was not her boyfriend at the time, who became her husband for 50 years. It wasn't his son. So she's carrying this deep, heavy secret with her all these years, and it really weighed on her, and she was just didn't know what to do with this information. And she swears that she had never told another soul And ever, not in years of therapy, never told a therapist, never told her best friend, never told her dog. No, never admitted this out loud ever until she came to see me. Well, I helped her understand that was exactly what we're looking for. You're choking on something. You're choking on a lie. You're choking on the truth. You're choking. There's something that needs to get resolved to clear that up. So we focused on that for the next several sessions, and she noticed week after week her choking and coughing getting easier and easier and easier till eventually it was completely gone. And she could not believe that she had been suffering with this coughing and choking for so many years, and it began with this big, this, I don't want to say it was a lie necessarily. I mean, yeah, she knew the truth, but she was also terrified about, revealing this.
Right.
Because she didn't, she's scared. She doesn't know what's going to happen. All kinds of stuff can happen from that. So you have to kind of empathize with her in this situation. And by the way, the guy that, date raped her, she said she'd never seen or heard from him ever again. So it's not like, they were on, dating and she had to choose between this guy and that guy. It was really just a one-time over thing. So by the time she was done with our program, she said she had no more choking at all, no more coughing. And that actually kind of, messed with her head a little bit because she was used to coughing and choking for 20 years, and now she's not doing it. So we actually then have to do a couple of sessions to help the mind understand that this is your new normal. Mm-hmm. But I like to use that as a success story, obviously, because it shows we want to really understand what our mind is going through. Our subconscious mind is holding all this stuff, all of the secrets of your behavior in your subconscious. You cannot consciously think your way through a subconscious problem. It doesn't work that way. I don't care how much willpower you have. I don't care how awesome you are or strong-minded you are. None of that shit matters. It's not going to do it. We found it. We resolved it. The physical manifestation went away.
I think it also is helpful to point out that a lot of people get stuck on when something started because they think, because it started 20 years ago, the issue that caused it had to have happened 20 to 21 years ago. That's not how emotional damage works. That's absolutely not how it works. Like, people want these cut, clean, dry answers because that's something like medicine would give you. That doesn't work when it comes to the emotional well-being of an individual. Things, as long as they sit, ramp up. How she got worse over time. So it took a long time to even develop those symptoms, and then it took a long time for them to get bad enough that she tried this crazy option. So I actually really enjoy talking to people in discovery calls that have issues like this where it leans so heavily medical, but they've tried all avenues to understand that that's no longer where the situation lies. Because emotional distress shows in the most insane ways. And it's really interesting to see that and figure out the reason, because when she was talking to me, I was like, yeah, this 100% could be an emotional issue, especially if you found no answer medically or otherwise. But I have no clue what the basis of that is going to be. The things that end up coming forward are just absolutely insane sometimes.
It's, the mind is going to do what it needs to do. First, to deal with something. Second, to cope with it. Third, to move on. Fourth, to then tell you that there's a problem underneath all these layers that needs to be dealt with. It's doing all that at the same time. So it becomes really confusing as to what do I need to do here.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, I completely understand why she made the choices that she did way back when. I don't think she necessarily did anything wrong, like you said. It's just that's a tough situation to be in. Everyone's going to handle that a little bit differently, and unfortunately, it happened to eat away at her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, along the lines with what you were just saying about how we never know when it's going to manifest. If it started 20 years ago, doesn't mean that it's the result of something 20 or 21 years ago. There's that delayed response. Well, why is it delayed? We kind of look at this from we've all heard of this thing. Well, I think most people have heard of this thing called the midlife crisis. Mm-hmm. Kind of leans into what I'm about to describe, is that most people, especially of our older generations, myself and older, you'd go to school, high school, maybe go to college or get a job right away out of high school. You're super busy with a job, busy with maybe trying to build a career, build a business, busy with relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend. Again, our generation, we tended to get married rather early, like 20, 21, 22 years old, where the baby boomers got married usually between 18 and 20 years old, because it's just kind of how you did. It was the normal, yeah. So with all that being busy, super busy in your 20s, especially, again, my generation and older, we were busy trying to live our 20s. We had lots of energy, so we wanted to party a lot, even though we might have been married and had kids. I didn't get married till I was 26, I think, or 27, somewhere in there. Anyway, but a lot of my friends out of high school were already married and divorced by the time I got married for my one and only time. But anyway, you're so busy that all these problems that you have, like especially if they're from your childhood, they just sit in wait under the surface. They're down here because you're too busy to deal with it. Your business, your career is booming, your relationships are booming, you're partying, you're wanting to have fun, you're being very active, you have so much going on. And in your 30s, you're really building, usually most people are really building a career. They really are, having all this going on with family stuff, raising kids, being married, being in a family. 40s, it starts to slow down. And that's where we start to notice this thing called the midlife crisis, where someone in their 40s, maybe early 40s, mid 40s, depends on when you got started kind of thing and how many kids you had and all this is a sliding scale. Then you start having a little bit more time to yourself because your kids are now teenagers. They're self-sufficient. They don't need you anymore. They come and go. They just eat and leave. So you have more time for yourself, which means that your subconscious says, hey, remember that thing that we didn't deal with? We're going to start pushing on it now. We're going to start really bringing this, but it doesn't tell you, hey, by the way, remember that, and it's not specific. It doesn't tell you this thing that was specific. Like with this woman, it didn't say, hey, remember that date rape you had when you were in college? It's time to deal with that now. Mm-hmm. It didn't do that. What it did was it signaled her by way of coughing and choking. Another person, it might signal them by just the desire out of nowhere to just drink more alcohol. Mm-hmm. Or smoke a bunch of weed every day, or smoke cigarettes every day, or just be depressed, have anxiety, have fears, and have doubts and feelings of worthlessness. And now you have time to deal with this because your life is an autopilot. Chances are you own a home, you're in a relationship, your kids are growing up and they don't need you. Everything you're doing is kind of automated. So now you got plenty of time now, so here, let's deal with this. So something to think about on why there's a delayed response.
Yeah, it is definitely interesting because I think it's never going to be the first thing that people look at, but also at the same time, I actually think that plays in our favor a little bit as the people trying to give the care, because it's a lot more people that genuinely, by the time they find us, they need this help and they're in the right place. I don't think everybody should be looking emotionally first. Some people do have a medical issue that needs to be handled medically, So I think it kind of plays well in our favor the way that people come to us, because we'd have to do a lot more sifting. Not that we don't already have those pieces in place, but fortunately, we don't have to turn away a lot of people. A lot of people are in the right place when they come here. And I really appreciate that. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Like, I wish she didn't have to struggle with something for 20 years, but at the same time, at least she knew she was in the right place when she got here.
All very good points. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that story.
My pleasure.